not been to Minnesota in probably 20 years.
Bring gas. Welcome to Flagrant Howls, a Minnesota Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.
Feedback Friday edition of Flagrant Howls here. And we actually, with that intro, Charles Barkley, the Bring Yass, Anthony Edwards, Charles Barkley thing, we actually have a request, somebody that's not happy with that intro anymore. Did you see that email?
I've seen a lot. Well, I've seen it over months of, months is probably a little too strong. Weeks of people saying, time to change the Flagrant Howls intro.
Disagree.
From multiple people.
Oh, we've already lost the positive vibe. Well, that's where we're at now as a fan base, that everything awesome that happened last summer and all the fun that was had and the back and forth, Anthony Edwards, that we're just throwing all that out the window because you miss Cat. I'm sorry. No, we are keeping it in the intro.
But why is it time to change that one? That's a perfect one.
I'll tease that we will get to Kirk Williams' email about that.
All right. I'd be curious to hear the logic behind it to know if I can support Kirk.
I'd love to get rid of one of those parlor burgers. Throw it right down the gullet, Judd. Get rid of it. Throw it into my body is what I'm saying.
You've got to savor it. You've got to savor it because the parlor burger is so fantastic. You don't want to inhale that thing. You want to savor every single bite. And I'm going to tell you exactly where you can get one because, of course, Parlor Bar, North Loop, not too far. So if you are going to attend a Wolves game, from the arena, perfect place to go. And also a craft cocktail menu as well. And may I recommend, too, if you're going with your wife or your gal or your buddy, how about you get a fried chicken sandwich? Underrated. And the Parlor Burger, and you split them because both are absolutely fantastic. Kitchen open until midnight on Friday and Saturday. Parlor Bar, North Loop, the perfect place to stop before you go and watch the Wolves, and hopefully they don't tick you off.
Amen. I would recommend maybe just a tour of these great places that partner with us here on Flagrant Howls, because not that far, also from Target Center, is Bricksworth, some of the best IPAs, the Nasreed Hazy IPA that you can get into. Also, some of the best dry rub wings in the Twin Cities. They've got Cool Ranch Dorito dry rub wings. They've got all sorts of drink specials for home and away games. So pregame, postgame, and away games. Bricksworth in the North Loop, super close to Target Center. And they also brew their own craft beer at the OG Burnsville location. So check them out, our friends at Bricksworth in Minneapolis. Okay, let's get to a Feedback Friday here, gentlemen. We'll get to the intro controversy here soon. But let's start with... You know what? Let's start with the Bills. This isn't officially part of Feedback Friday, but a lot of people have been reacting to the Bill Simmons podcast, Julius Randle trade idea that was floated. And if there's anyone in the national media that understands the reckless speculation lifestyle, it's Bill Simmons. Bill. Mike Greenberg, too. Mike Greenberg, friend of the show, also gets it.
True.
But Bill loves to just kind of concoct crazy trade ideas. So he had Kevin O'Connor, who used to be part of The Ringer. Now I think he's at Yahoo. Kevin O'Connor, NBA insider. And the summation is they landed on a 3-team trade. Julius Randle goes to the Pistons. Tobias Harris goes from the Pistons to the Bucks. And Khris Middleton would go from the Bucks to the Timberwolves.
Speculation.
Now, Khris Middleton, at one time, 5 years ago, was the second best player on a championship team. Giannis was scoring 40 points, and he looked like he tore his knee and then hulked up and then came back and demolished the Suns in that series. But once upon a time, Khris Middleton was absolutely a number 2 player on a championship team. Well, now that Damian Lillard is in the house, he's kind of been put on the back burner a little bit the last couple of years in Milwaukee. His productivity has decreased. He's 33 years old. He's injured all the time. He's played 33, 55, and now 18 games this season for the Bucks. So he's hurt a lot. He can still not. He actually is a better shooter than he was early in his career. But he can knock down threes. Mm-hmm. He's kind of he's a wing-sized player who can initiate offense too, which is something the Wolves could use more of, just offense initiation. But here's the problem. the biggest reason why you would trade Julius Randle, despite what a lot of people may think, isn't because he's a garbage basketball player. I know he went like 2 for 13 a couple nights ago, but and he's had some clunker games. He's not a bad player. He's a skilled player. He's a little bit of an oblivious player at times. He's a bad fit for this Wolves team, and he's not a long-term fit. And he has a player option this summer that, if he exercises it, probably sends Naz Reid to a different team in unrestricted free agency. So, like, that player option is the biggest issue. Mm-hmm. Well, Khris Middleton also has a player option for $34 million this summer. And again, he's 33 years old, going to be 34. He's not a long-term fit here. No. If it was like Khris Middleton on an expiring and then like something else, a backup big man or something, I'm all for entertaining this. But I'm not chasing like a short-term sugar high fix. Like, oh, if you swapped Randle for Middleton, it's a better fit for this team. Right, but it might still wind up in you losing core pieces that are 10 years younger than Khris Middleton.
So when the Cat trade was made, you hoped that Randle would contribute a lot. Like ideally he comes here and he just plays lights out, and it's like, okay, it's go time, right? But you also had to be prepared that might not take place. So now Tim Connelly has to thread a very difficult, but he put himself in this predicament, needle, which is you can't just now trade to what we're talking about here. You can't just trade Randle for another veteran who has contract left or can opt in. So this is where Connelly is going to have to show his acumen, his brilliance at times, sometimes not, but this is not one where yes, you're going to now make a trade for the sake of making a trade, but pretty much be left in the same predicament. So like, this is fun to talk about. The reckless speculation lifestyle is beyond fun. So I would never suppress that. Never, ever. Bill Simmons, I respect you. But that being said, I think if you are in the Timberwolves sphere, this type of trade is not an option. And Doogie said this as well. Let's be clear on the Pistons. The Pistons obviously are overachieving. JB Bickerstaff's done a great job. Everybody knows Julius. Do you really want to, as Duke said, do you really want to plop him in your room right now? Like you're having this good year. And yes, if you can upgrade with a player, that's awesome. But I don't know that the Pistons are going to think Julius Randle is that piece. He's that piece. So
I would think that. Well, yeah. I mean, what's crazy about the Pistons is right now wasn't that team like flirting for a while with the all-time worst record in NBA history for a minute last year. I mean, they were
terrible.
They're terrible.
They were like a single-digit win team.
Terrible.
If the playoffs started today, they wouldn't even be in the play-in. They would just be the 6th seed in the Eastern Conference. And this is great news because then the pick converts for the Timberwolves. So, yeah, I'm not going to pretend to know what they're thinking or what. You wouldn't be adding a bad basketball player, and maybe he would fit better with what they're doing. But, yeah, the idea, Khris Middleton for this season, I think if he could stay on the court, I think would be a better fit for this year's 100%. Timberwolves. But the risk of him exercising a $34 million player option, is he going to, with how injured he is and how old he is he really going to decline that in hopes of like a 3-year, $100 million? No, he's not. I think he's more likely to exercise that than Julius Randle is.
I agree with that.
Because Julius Randle's like 4 years younger than Khris Middleton.
I agree completely.
So
he's a solid defender still. Like he's still very productive. I guess if you were picking poison though, with player options between Middleton and Julius Randle that you were as the Timberwolves locked into for next year, would you rather have Julius or Khris Middleton exercising that player option? Because to me, I think I would take Khris Middleton.
So I don't want either exercising the option, but if Julius exercises his option, Naz Reid, I think Naz Reid's gone. Because A, it would be harder to pay him, but B, he's going to want to start and play a bunch of minutes. So I guess The only way, like, if you get past the trade deadline and Julius is still on the team, the only way you can, like, try to get him to not exercise that option is to just, like, put him on the bench and make his life kind of miserable. But then even leverage-wise, he would still opt in and then make you try to trade him or something.
Right.
So I just think, man, like, you've got some young players here. Naz Reid deserves more minutes. And Rob Dillingham deserves more minutes. And so the more you can clear out dudes who are 29 and older, not entirely, but just like clear them out or reduce their minutes and give minutes to guys who deserve them and fit the window for the next 3 to 5 years. By the way, total side note, in looking up Khris Middleton's contract situation, do you guys ever just like go on Basketball Reference or even Baseball Reference where like the highest paid sports or quarterbacks in the NFL and marvel at how much money these dudes make in their careers?
Yeah, I'm looking at Middleton's right now.
Khris Middleton, a really good NBA player, and at one point was the number 2 player on a championship team, but not a guy that you would ever think of as like face of the NBA or right.
Sure. Yeah.
He's made $250 million playing basketball.
Yeah,
it's got to be good.
It's pretty crazy. I mean, you got Kirk Cousins, who's made like $300 million as the 12th best quarterback in the NFL.
Yes. So I respect the idea, and the reckless speculation is awesome, but I think you got to find a way to get back expiring contracts.
Yep. Yes. Noah Palmer says, "Hey, hope this message finds you guys well."
It didn't.
Did it find you guys well?
I can't complain, but I'm not going to say like really well because I'm not going to buy into the nonsense, the cliche of saying,
it found me curled up in the fetal position.
Yeah,
Noah. But he says, "Hey, I was watching Flagrant Howls from Thursday, and I think the future of the Wolves could be like the Cavs. Rob Dillingham's style of play is similar to Darius Garland. Anthony Edwards and Donovan Mitchell are both electric, high-flying 2 guards. With Jaden's inability to shoot threes, moving him more to a 4 instead of a 3 reminds me of Evan Mobley, a very lengthy elite defender who's had fan bases talking about the offensive jump that is soon to come. I watch all your shows. Thank you, guys. Have a great day." So, well, for one, yeah, I think Anthony Edwards is like a better version of Donovan Mitchell, like a bigger, better version in terms of trajectory. The Darius Garland was the number 5 pick from like 6 years ago out of Vanderbilt. So SEC, Rob Dillingham, number 8 pick, SEC. They're both like 6'1", less than 200 pounds. Dillingham's even smaller than Garland, but diminutive players that have to find their way through the trees, initiators of offense. I could see that comp for sure. Evan Mobley is a little taller and probably like 30 or 40 pounds thicker than Jaden McDaniels. But here is the hope. So 2 years ago, Cleveland kind of popped up for the first time without LeBron James, when LeBron went to the Lakers. 2 years ago, Cleveland made the playoffs as a 51-win team with the number 1 defensive net rating and a clunky offense. Sound familiar? Last year's Timberwolves team, 50-plus wins, number 1. So the next year, the Timberwolves then 50-plus wins, make the playoffs, number 1 defense, kind of a clunky offense. Well, 2 years later, with largely the same young nucleus that's now, instead of most of them being 23, they're 25, 26. Donovan Mitchell's been a couple years older. Cleveland is now flipped. They are the number 2 net rating offense in the NBA. And still a solid defense. They're 11th this season in defensive net rating. But they've essentially taken, okay, these are our core pieces in their 20s. Let's carry them forward. Let's add some shooting. Let's add some youth athleticism. And let's lean more into offense and trust that we're not going to plummet on defense, but we don't need to be the number 1 defense if we have a clunky offense. So it's not apples to apples, but Cleveland in 2 years showed, hey, we can essentially flip our identity and go from being defense number 1 and an offense that just sort of tries to figure it out to being, and the Wolves saw it firsthand the other night, like last week, whenever that game was, last weekend. Saturday. I mean, Cleveland, it was a back-to-back for the Wolves, and DiVincenzo was out. But that gives you some hope that, hey, if you just, all right, a little more Naz Reid, a little more Rob Dillingham here, things can flip.
Okay, so here's my question off that. Is Rudy Gobert part of that then?
Right. I think he is, but not like 33 minutes a game part of it. He needs to be because there are still things that you can tap into there. It's not like he's this complete washed. He's less than he was.
Right, that's the concern.
A year ago at his peak.
Yeah, the decline.
But I mean, Jared Allen is the starting center for the Cavs. He's 26 years old and entering his prime, and that dude can't make a bucket. He doesn't shoot threes, and he's there to essentially grab rebounds, block shots, and convert at the rim. He plays 27, 28 minutes a night, even as a 26-year-old. So could you reduce the role a little bit, 5-6 minutes, give some extra minutes to players who are more offensive centric?
Yep. Cavs also changed coaches.
Wow.
I am not. Hear me clearly. Hear me clearly.
It's true.
My boy Finch.
It's a fact.
We are like brothers, born like 4 days apart. So it hurts me to say this, but
it doesn't.
I don't think we can ignore the facts.
No, it is. So JB Bickerstaff. I mean, JB Bickerstaff did a great job getting that team gelled, get to the playoffs. Yeah, but it was Kenny Atkinson who came in. Now, Kenny Atkinson also, he made that, so he was the Brooklyn coach for like 3 or 4 years when D'Lo was there, before the Wolves acquired D'Lo. And they made that surprise run to the playoffs like 5-6 years ago. And now they're sitting here, what are they, 36-7?
Yeah. And D'Lo's back.
He's back in Brooklyn,
D'Lo,
yeah.
Man.
He's back in Brooklyn. I was watching him play against Cat a couple nights ago.
Yep. So it is fact. It is a fact that you speak. They did change coaches. Okay, let's see here. Doug Langan chimes in here. By the way, YouTube comments, you can hit us up, feedback tab in the Score North app. What if Finch is so pissed about not being given notice about the big trade at the beginning of the season that he's just giving a big middle finger to everyone above him, knowing that they're not going to fire him this season with all the ownership stuff? There's no other explanation for playing fossils like Gobert, Conley, and Randle, knowing it's a horse bleep show. Why wouldn't you play what seems to be a ton of promise and young players and ability that's wasted on the bench? I think Finch is either stubborn, pissed off, or just plain stupid. He's not stupid.
No.
I will say I have heard rumblings behind the scenes that he was somewhat shocked when that trade went down. I don't know that he was like completely out of the loop, but whether it was the timing of it or maybe the whole thing, that at least that's what I've heard, that it kind of caught him off guard right before the season too.
I think the key word in that note is stubborn. I think he's stubborn. I think he wants to, like and he's not unique in this way. Wants to use guys that he sees as reliable veterans. But I agree, at this point in time, it doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't make sense. And they finally made the Conley move, but then Dante got hurt. And what was it? 2 games ago, I think it was the Monday afternoon game in Memphis, Dillingham was really good, but then he sort of struggled a little bit against Dallas. And the problem there is he just gets pulled out.
And there's no chance to go back in and solve it or figure it out.
And that's the stubborn part.
Yeah. It is kind of crazy. And I get that guys with 10-year track records of being really good are going to have more leeway just in general. Like if Mike Conley has a bad 5 minutes, you're thinking, okay, he's Mike Conley. But he's also right on that age cliff. And Gobert has... So the fact that you give a lot of leeway to a Mike Conley who hasn't hit a clutch time shot literally the entire season, but he keeps running out there.
Right.
And Dillingham doesn't get a chance. It is befuddling. Robbie B says, if Julius Randle isn't traded by the deadline, Tim Connolly has officially then heard that Glenn Taylor is getting the team back and that the player option is his time bomb. He will leave.
I love this.
He will leave the time bomb in the house on his way out the door when he opts out. If Glenn gets the team, Robbie B is asserting that Tim Connolly will sabotage the future by not trading Julius Randle and allowing him to opt in, thus allowing Naz Reid to walk.
Glenn's going to wake up with a horse head in his bed, looking Godfather. Just that's
this
awesome.
It's
That's awesome.
It's a thriller, and the last thing is as Conley drives away.
Hello, Gladden.
Target Center is going to explode, and it's going to be in Conley's going to give this, and then
Conley's walking
party,
out with
pal.
like a tattered suit with some blood running down his forehead,
laughing,
rips a cigarette
manically. That is a great. I love that note.
I dig it.
Oh man, yeah, we're gonna get news here in the next like 2 or 3 weeks. So because there's a 30-day window, so we will hopefully have some finality on that. Okay, we'll get to the intro controversy here in a second, but right across from Target Center is a great place called Kieran's. Got some Irish people on this show here. A Declan,
right.
a Mackey. Yes.
Come join me at Kieran's. We can concoct some Julius Randle trades, whether it's ripping me for Jordan Poole like Phil and even Kyle Tigey did yesterday when I joined briefly for the most random Wolf of the week. We can talk random Wolves. We can talk plenty of things over some great pours, some great pub food at Kieran's. Game day specials too. So whether it's pregame, postgame, go stop into Kieran's. It's right across the street from the Target Center.
All right, MSP Plumbing and Heating also helping to keep people warm, to fix their plumbing issues, and helping to power Flagrant Howls here, Judd.
Absolutely true, because this time of year, guess what? If the furnace goes on the fritz, it's big trouble. I want to talk to you about the most important word that my friends at MSP Plumbing, Heating, and Air use, and that's commitment. For over a century, families have relied upon them for all their plumbing, drains, heating, and cooling needs. 100% family-owned and operated business. MSP is committed to taking care of you and your family, making sure that your house is warm, making sure that your house is comfortable. Right now, by the way, get $50 off any HVAC or plumbing repair. Give them a call, 651-615-4292, or check out their site, calmsp.com. The website again, calmsp.com. Make sure everything that's key to your home is in working order.
All right, Kirk Williams chimes in, says, I have an official request for Flagrant Howls. I know this is petty, but from the constant clowning of Cat to never missing a chance to hate on Gobert to now disrespecting Anthony Edwards, this is my formal request to have Charles Barkley's voice removed from the Flagrant Howls intro. So at first I thought, is he talking about us? Because we do all those things, sort of. But yeah, Chuck has been very, very vocal about Cat and Gobert and Ant. To me, the intro is more about Ant, like representing, bring your ass, like representing Minnesota.
Agreed.
But I'm going to defend Charles Barkley here for a second, because I think sometimes I can't tell if people with these podcasts and with the TNT crew went way too far clowning Gobert and having Draymond Green on set. So I do agree generally with the Draymond stuff, but whether it's with Charles Barkley or the 5 of us with Ross who are on Flagrant Howls every single week, it's like people just want blind positivity. You want to ignore the fact that Cat has ghosted like 50% of his playoff games. Rudy Gobert is barely jumping for rebounds in key situations and fumbling passes. He does a lot of good things too, but we're just supposed to like turn a blind eye to those flaws. Or Anthony Edwards, who is taking bad hero shots in clutch time, and is he just completely above criticism of us or anybody or Charles? So maybe there's a line where TNT has gone too far in some certain situations, but there's been a lot of things since the Western Conference Finals moving forward into this season. There's been a lot of fair things to criticize with this team. And so I guess if you're a fan and you're just looking for blind positivity and pie in the sky optimism when that's not reality, I don't know. Maybe Charles Barkley is not for you, or maybe Flagrant Howls sometimes isn't for you. That's my take on it.
I stand for Charles, so I love the guy. Sorry.
He's funny. Okay, maybe he gets a little squirrely with his criticism, but
he does, but that's
legendarily great at that job.
But that's what makes him great.
Yeah.
He doesn't care. I don't think he cares what he says, which is what makes him great. So yeah, I think that the open is absolutely fine.
Okay. Dex?
I'm okay with it. Yeah. I'm good with it. I like it. I like the bring your asses. It was part of it was like an iconic moment in Timberwolves history. They'd won Game 7. I'm totally for it.
It literally represents the peak moment in the last 20 years of Timberwolves history. Mm-hmm. And even if Chuck is a little critical here and there, that like to me, it's Anthony Edwards, like Declan said, with this iconic slogan, that will stick for years and maybe even decades, depending on what plays out here. So until the Wolves provide the next moment, I think the intro should stay.
Oh,
I think
absolutely.
The intro should stay.
Yeah. Yep. I thought it was going to be about the fact the team was failing or something, and someone was sick of Ant. But if Charles is the reason why, I can't.
Well, no, I think like maybe I off the top of the show, like what I meant was whenever there's criticism of the Timberwolves, whether it's coming from inside the house, those of us who talk about this team on a regular basis, Dane Moore, etc., or whether it's from outside the house, I think we have to evaluate, is the criticism fair? If people are ripping Cat previously for not showing up in play, he showed up in the Denver series, that's great. Then he shoots 27% the first 3 games. We're supposed to ignore that? Rudy Gobert falls off a cliff or gets drubbed by another player he gets drubbed by Isaiah Likely and Gafford. I think fair criticism is not hate should be the T-shirt slogan here.
I feel like the majority of Wolves fans this season very fairly are pissed off at the team.
Yeah, totally.
Like I don't,
rightfully so.
I don't see a lot of protection here.
Yeah, and what's crazy is despite those vibes, they're still sitting here like a game and a half or 2 games out of a 5 seed in the Western Conference, and
But I think it's fair to say that this team and its roster should be so much more consistent. The frustration, yes, they're close to being out of the play-in potentially, but that being said, the expectation and the quality of the roster that still exists, I get it. Like this team should be firmly in the playoffs, not the play-in.
Yeah. Well, it's a trade in the next couple weeks could help for this year and for the long term. So
get your act together.
And bring your ass back to
Charles.
Flagrant Howls. Thank you guys for hanging out with us on this Feedback Friday. If you missed yesterday, a very dramatic and exciting random Wolf of the Week. Declan came in as a third participant.
Did Declan not help that much? I mean, just a little tease for me.
No.
Go listen to it.
Go listen to it. Preposterous.
The last 10 to 15 minutes of the Thursday Flagrant Howls.
Sour grapes is what I hear.
It was preposterous is what it was.
You just got beat fair and square, but I haven't seen it yet.
I won, but preposterous.
Yeah, because he was on my team. I mean, I carried him. But this is a Timberwolves lifestyle podcast.